Well, since my last video, I made quite a few changes into the actual program to do the um, intervalometer functions. And, most of them are on this particular screen here, which is the camera screen. First thing I did is I saved all of the parameters now. So whenever I take a picture or I take a series, the whatever parameters I had set from the previous set are available for me here now. So that eliminated having to do a lot of clicking. The second thing I did is right here, I've eliminated the sensor choice. I didn't think there was a reason to have 5 different sensors on a pull-down menu when you can only have one sensor or no sensors available at any one time on the module. So I eliminated that. And instead, I used a system where when I plug the module in, it tells me what sensor it is. I will demonstrate that shortly. The other thing that I did is I've added 4 types of camera that I can support. One is the basic camera wired, which is when you're using the dongle, the 3 wires for ground, focus, and shutter are controlled by this particular module. However, if you have a Bluetooth camera, I can control it with the Canon Bluetooth module, the Nikon Bluetooth, or the Sony Bluetooth module. So that gives me, and I could add more on, obviously, as I feel like it, but that way I can switch which module that I'm controlling. All right, so as an example here, I'm going to set up autofocus, and the first thing I'm going to do is just plug in one of my sensors, which is the ultrasound sensor. Now if you watch this, none, I'm plugging it in now, and as I plug it in, after about 4 seconds, it should switch over to ultrasound. So that tells me that I have the ultrasound sensor installed. Now probably in a future release of the software, I'm going to kill off this wait for trigger and this minimum and maximum, and I'll fade that out unless the sensor actually is attached. Now I'm going to unplug the ultrasound sensor, and you'll see that within 4 seconds it should switch over to none. Now I've got another sensor in my hand and I'm going to plug in, and I just did, and within 4 seconds it should tell me which sensor I plugged in, and that's the LiDAR V3. So no matter how many different types of sensors, I can have up to 16 sensors in here inside of these modules. And as soon as I plug it in, it knows exactly which sensor it is that I've got and sets it up to use that particular sensor. Okay, so that's the basics of the changes that I've done with the intervalometer as far as the program is concerned. Now, what have I done with the actual CPU? Well, I've changed over. Before I used to use totally the ESP8266, and that was a great microcontroller. It had Wi-Fi, it had a couple of extra pins, and I could play around with it all day long. And I really liked it. But as you can see, I switched over to the ESP32. Now the ESP32 has a lot more general purpose I/O pins, a lot more, and there's a lot more flexibility in what I can do. It still has the same I/O, it's basically compatible. I only have to change 1 or 2 lines of coding to actually switch it between the ESP32 and the ESP8266. So it was really, a non-brainer. The other nice thing about the ESP32, it has dual core and is almost 4 times faster. So that really helped on some of my more complex projects, like my web fence thing that I did. So that helps that. So the other thing that I then did is after I finished the ESP32 code, I sent out and designed a printed circuit board to make it a lot easier. And that's what you're seeing over here. This printed circuit board only took, maybe half an hour to do. And this is the schematic diagram of the printed circuit board. And you can see that what I've tried to do is wire up 4 pins on the RS-232 connector that would tell me what sensor is plugged in. So my software code, all it does is basically scan on the loop and looks for a change on that sensor line. As soon as it sees the sensor line change, it will automatically instantiate that object, load up all the parameters for it, and enable it to do the sensing. So that was pretty neat. All right, let's see, anything else I did? Well, yeah, on the box itself, I also had the capability with OpenSCAD to actually do vent holes. So some of my projects were getting a little bit hot when they were running full bore. So I decided to add some vent holes in there. So by clicking the button for vent holes, it generated some vent holes. All right, so the intervalometer is a very useful function. It is used for stop action photography. And the other thing, I use it a lot for astrophotography. In astrophotography, I just generally set it up to bulb mode. And over here, I say 20 seconds. I also give it 2 seconds between photos. So what that does is after 20 seconds, it shuts down the shutter, delays 2 more seconds, and then comes back up again. And the number of pictures I can take is, let's say, 2,000. I won't generally take that many, but I'll probably take an hour's worth of photos and put them together with the stacker. So I'll probably show that in a different video. But this is really the differences between the last intervalometer I did and this one.